Growing up as an identical twin was like being stuck in a perpetual shadow. While Sophia reveled in the spotlight with her bubbly charisma, I often felt like a mere afterthought, tucked away behind her vibrant persona. It was as if the universe had cast her as the leading lady and me as the understudy, waiting in the wings. The first crack in our seemingly perfect twinship appeared during 6th grade play auditions. I had been battling a nasty cold, barely able to keep my eyes open. I asked Sophia to speak on my behalf for the narrator's role, hoping that my absence wouldn't be noticed. But when I returned to school, the role of Snow White was thrust upon me, a part I hadn't desired. Sophia, with her usual sweetness, claimed she just wanted me to have a chance to shine. Her eyes, however, betrayed a glimmer of something darker, something that felt like glee at my misfortune. On the night of the play, as the final bows were taken and the applause roared, I glanced over at Sophia. Her scowl was unmistakable, a stark contrast to the smiles and cheers surrounding me. It was a bitter revelation. My sister, my twin, saw me as a rival, not an ally. The applause, meant to celebrate my unexpected success, felt like a bitter reminder of the chasm growing between us. Years rolled on, and the divide between Sophia and me widened into an unbridgeable gulf. I buried myself in my work as a marketing executive, finding solace in the professional world where my worth was measured by merit, not familial comparisons. Then Nathan entered my life. He was the new creative director at the firm, and his presence was like a breath of fresh air. With a smile that could light up the dullest office and a quick wit that kept me on my toes, Nathan was everything I had hoped for. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Each day brought new joys, new discoveries, and a feeling of being truly seen and appreciated. Nathan seemed to fill the void that had festered in me for years, the one left by Sophia's relentless overshadowing. But even as my heart swelled with happiness, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was amiss. When I introduced Nathan to Sophia, the underlying tension was palpable. I noticed the familiar gleam in Sophia's eyes, the same one she had worn when she'd manipulated me as a child. Nathan, oblivious to the undercurrents, made a casual remark about how I should take a leaf out of Sophia's book. He praised her charm and vivacity, which only reopened old wounds. My heart sank as I wondered if I was fated to always be second best, even to the man I loved. Then came the day that shattered my world. I had been feeling unwell and decided to leave work early, seeking refuge in the quiet of our home. The muffled sounds coming from our bedroom were the last thing I expected. With my heart racing, I crept closer, my breath hitching in my throat. Through the keyhole, I saw the scene that would forever alter the course of my life. Nathan and Sophia, tangled together in a betrayal I had never imagined. My hands shook as I recorded the damning footage. When they emerged from the room, their faces were ghostly pale. I met their shocked gazes with a cold, steely resolve. "I've sent the video to Gabriel," I said, referring to Sophia's husband. My voice was icy, cutting through the chaotic air. Sophia's face turned a sickly shade of green as she stumbled forward, her composed facade cracking. "You don't understand," Sophia pleaded, her voice trembling. "It just happened." "No," I interrupted, my voice low and steady. "I understand perfectly. The years of comparisons, the shadow you cast over my life, it all makes sense now." I felt a cold satisfaction wash over me as I watched them scramble, their justifications falling flat. In that moment, years of being manipulated and belittled crystallized into a hard, unyielding resolve. The betrayal had freed me from the last remnants of obligation to either of them. As Nathan and Sophia floundered, trying to salvage what was left, I stood firm. No more would I be the second-choice sister or the overlooked partner. The betrayal had broken the chains of my self-doubt and given me a newfound strength. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal battles and emotional turmoil. My sons, ever my anchors, were a source of strength and pride. Their unwavering support in the face of such upheaval was a testament to their resilience. As Nathan and Sophia's lives unraveled spectacularly, I observed from a distance. Their public fall from grace, their loss of jobs and reputations, felt like justice served, albeit with a tinge of pity. The ultimate test came when Sophia, in a final act of desperation, asked me for a kidney. Her health had deteriorated under the weight of stress and her own self-destructive habits. Her plea, filled with tears and desperation, might have once swayed me. But the Evelyn who might have sacrificed herself for Sophia's happiness was long gone. I had finally grasped my own worth and understood that true love, whether from family, friends, or a partner, should lift you up, not drag you down. 5 years later, I looked back at the wreckage of my past with a sense of calm detachment. My sons were thriving, their bond a beautiful echo of the sisterhood that could have been but never was. I had found joy in my work and in the friendships I had cultivated. Gabriel, Sophia's ex-husband, had become an unexpected ally and friend. His support was a balm to my wounded soul, and the possibility of love flickered gently on the horizon. For the first time in my life, I felt complete on my own. The shadow of Sophia no longer loomed over me, defining my every move. I had emerged from the crucible of betrayal, a stronger, more self-aware woman. As the sun set on another day, I looked out at the horizon with a smile, feeling the warmth of possibility. The future stretched before me, a blank canvas waiting for the vibrant colors of a life lived on my own terms. Time had a way of blurring the edges of pain, but it also offered the chance to rebuild. After the traumatic revelation of Nathan and Sophia's betrayal, I found myself grappling with the shards of my life, attempting to piece them together with as much dignity as I could muster. My work, once a refuge, now felt like a battleground of its own, and Nathan's absence loomed like an open wound in the office. In the midst of this upheaval, Nathan's role as the creative director was filled by a charismatic new hire, a man named Gabriel. From the moment Gabriel walked into the office, there was an air of calm authority about him. He was tall, with a demeanor that commanded respect without uttering a word. His presence was like a lighthouse in a stormy sea, guiding us through the tumultuous period following Nathan's departure. One morning, as I sorted through a stack of project proposals, Gabriel approached my desk. His expression was thoughtful, almost concerned. "Evelyn, could we have a quick chat?" he asked, his voice steady and reassuring. I nodded, trying to mask the fatigue that seemed permanently etched into my features. "Of course, Gabriel. What's up?" He gestured towards the conference room, and we walked in silence. Inside, he closed the door gently, his gaze meeting mine with a sincerity that made me pause. "I wanted to check in," he began. "I know this transition hasn't been easy for you." I looked away, struggling to maintain composure. "It's been a challenge, but I'm managing." Gabriel's eyes softened. "You're one of the most talented people here, Evelyn. I've seen your work and your dedication. If you ever need someone to talk to or any support, I'm here." His words, unexpected and genuine, struck a chord. I managed a faint smile, feeling a flicker of warmth in the midst of my turmoil. "Thank you, Gabriel. That means a lot." As weeks turned into months, Gabriel's support became a crucial part of my recovery. He didn't just offer professional guidance, but also made a point to include me in decision-making processes, acknowledging my input and valuing my contributions. Slowly, I began to see myself not just as a background player, but as an integral part of the team. His belief in me was a balm to my bruised ego. One afternoon, as we worked late on a major campaign, Gabriel and I were alone in the office. The project had been demanding, and fatigue hung over us like a thick fog. Gabriel stretched his arms and sighed deeply. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" he asked suddenly, breaking the silence. I looked up, surprised by the question. "What do you mean?" "Like, after everything that's happened, what do you envision for your future? Do you have any plans or dreams that you've been putting off?" The question struck me more profoundly than I expected. I had been so focused on surviving day to day that I hadn't given much thought to what I truly wanted. "I haven't really thought about it," I admitted. "I've been too busy trying to pick up the pieces." Gabriel's gaze was steady. "Sometimes, in the midst of chaos, it's important to remember who you are and what you want for yourself. You're stronger than you realize, Evelyn. You've come through so much. Maybe now's the time to start thinking about what you want, not just what you have to do." His words lingered in my mind long after the office lights were turned off and the building emptied. Gabriel had a way of cutting through the noise, making me confront parts of myself I had buried deep. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that amidst the rubble of my past, there was still space for hope and renewal. In the months that followed, I began to reevaluate my life. I started taking small steps towards rediscovering who I was outside of work and past hurts. I took up painting again, a hobby I had abandoned years ago. It was a form of therapy, allowing me to channel my emotions into something creative. I'd also began exploring new opportunities within my career, pushing myself beyond the familiar boundaries that had once confined me. Gabriel continued to be a supportive presence, though our conversations grew more personal and less about work. One evening, as we shared a quiet dinner in a cozy restaurant, he looked across the table with an expression of genuine curiosity. "So, Evelyn," he began, his tone light but probing, "what's one thing you've always wanted to do but never had the chance?" I took a moment to reflect, realizing how seldom I had allowed myself to dream. "I've always wanted to write a book," I confessed. "But I've never had the time or the courage." Gabriel's eyes lit up. "That sounds incredible. You should definitely pursue it. You have a lot of stories to tell, and I'm sure you'd do a fantastic job." His encouragement was like a spark igniting a long-dormant fire within me. For the first time in a long while, I felt a genuine sense of excitement about the future. The wounds of betrayal had not fully healed, but they no longer defined me. I had begun to see myself not just as a survivor, but as someone capable of achieving her own dreams. As I left the restaurant that night, I felt a new sense of possibility. Gabriel had not only helped me navigate the immediate aftermath of betrayal, but had also guided me towards a future where I could once again envision happiness and fulfillment. The road ahead was still uncertain, but it was mine to travel. And, for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to embrace whatever came next. The day my world shattered was deceptively ordinary. It began with the usual routine: an early alarm, a bleary-eyed scramble to get dressed, and a quick breakfast that barely registered as food. I had been feeling under the weather for a few days, but the prospect of a quiet afternoon at home seemed like a small consolation. I arrived home earlier than usual, hoping to rest and recover in the peace of my empty house. The late afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the living room. I slipped off my shoes and set my keys on the hall table, thinking nothing of it as I padded towards the bedroom, where I planned to collapse onto the bed. But as I approached the door, I heard sounds that made my heart stop. Muffled, almost rhythmic noises drifted through the closed door. I hesitated, my hand resting on the doorknob, my breath catching in my throat. It was a sound I recognized, but refused to believe could be happening. With a trembling hand, I pulled out my phone and started recording, my heart racing as I braced myself for the worst. The footage, once reviewed, was a brutal confirmation of my worst fears. Nathan and Sophia entwined in a betrayal I had never imagined. The room seemed to spin as I tried to process the sight of them together, their passion a stark contrast to the icy realization settling in my chest. When Nathan and Sophia finally emerged, their faces ashen and their eyes wide with shock, I faced them with a calmness that surprised even me. I had prepared for this confrontation in countless scenarios, but nothing could have fully equipped me for the reality. "I've sent the video to Gabriel," I said, my voice steady and cold. Gabriel, Sophia's husband, was out of town on a business trip. His absence was a small mercy in this chaotic moment, but the knowledge that the truth was now in the open was a powerful tool in my hands. Sophia's face contorted in a mix of anger and desperation. "Evelyn, wait. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like," I interrupted, my voice unyielding. Years of being overshadowed, manipulated, and belittled. It all makes sense now. I was just too blind to see it. Nathan's attempt at justification fell on deaf ears. "Evelyn, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I echoed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "No, Nathan. This was no mistake. This was a choice. And it's one that's cost you everything." I watched as their pleas and justifications crumbled against the wall of my resolve. For too long, I had been the silent partner in this twisted familial drama, my role reduced to that of the perpetual understudy. But now, in the face of their betrayal, I felt an unshakable sense of liberation. The chains of their manipulation had finally been shattered. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal meetings and emotional conversations with my children who were caught in the crossfire of this upheaval. They clung to me, their young faces marked by confusion and sadness. Seeing their pain only strengthened my resolve to untangle our lives from the wreckage left by Nathan and Sophia. I was surprised at my own strength during this period. There were moments when the weight of the betrayal threatened to crush me, but each time I found myself rising above it. My sons, resilient and brave in their own way, became my pillars of support. Their unwavering loyalty and love were a testament to the family we had been and the family we could become. The fallout from the betrayal was swift and unforgiving. Nathan lost his job, his reputation destroyed by the scandal. Sophia's career suffered the same fate. Watching their downfall, a mix of satisfaction and pity washed over me. They had brought this on themselves, but I couldn't deny the pang of regret that came with seeing anyone suffer. Then came the final, gut-wrenching twist. Sophia, in her deteriorating health and mounting desperation, reached out to me with a plea that cut through the noise. Evelyn, she begged, her voice trembling, I need a kidney. Please, you're my only hope. I looked at her, her once proud demeanor now reduced to a crumpled mess of tears and pleas. The Evelyn who might have once considered such a sacrifice was gone. I had spent years allowing myself to be manipulated and diminished by her, but no more. No, I said firmly, my voice unwavering. I can't help you. Not after everything that's happened. I've learned to value myself too much to sacrifice my well-being for someone who never valued me. Her tears were inconsolable, but I felt no empathy. The woman who had once been my rival, my mirror image, had finally revealed herself as someone unworthy of my sacrifice. In her place, I had found a new strength, a new understanding of my worth. As the months passed, I focused on rebuilding my life. The emotional scars remained, but they no longer dictated my sense of self. My work flourished, and my relationship with Gabriel evolved into a meaningful friendship with the potential for something more. Through it all, I learned to navigate the complexities of my own heart, and for the first time, I felt genuinely at peace. Standing on the other side of this tumultuous period, I looked back with a sense of calm detachment. The journey through betrayal had been painful and disorienting, but it had ultimately forged me into someone who understood her own worth. As I faced the future, it was no longer a source of anxiety, but a canvas waiting for the vibrant colors of a life lived on my own terms. The weeks following the revelation of Nathan and Sophia's betrayal were a chaotic blur. My life seemed to be perpetually in motion, a relentless tide of legal meetings, tearful conversations with my children, and the overwhelming task of disentangling myself from the wreckage they had left behind. Amidst this whirlwind, I discovered a resilience within myself that I had never known. I remember one evening, after a particularly grueling day in the lawyer's office, sitting on the edge of my bed, exhausted and numb. My sons had already gone to bed, their innocent faces etched with worry I wished I could shield them from. I stared at the framed photos of happier times on my dresser, wondering how everything had unraveled so drastically. A knock at the door broke my reverie. It was Gabriel, who had become a steadfast friend during this tumultuous period. His presence was a comfort, a reminder of the normalcy I once took for granted. Mind if I come in? He asked, his voice gentle as he opened the door. I managed a weary smile. Sure, Gabriel. It's not like there's much else happening in here. He took a seat beside me on the bed, his expression reflecting a deep concern. How are you holding up? I shrugged, a gesture that was more about the weight of my emotions than physical exhaustion. I'm surviving. There's so much to handle, lawyers, paperwork, trying to make sure the boys are okay. It feels like I'm drowning sometimes. Gabriel placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You're doing an amazing job, Evelyn. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you're stronger than you realize. This is just a really tough chapter. His words were a balm to my bruised spirit, offering a glimmer of solace in the midst of my struggle. We sat in silence for a while, the only sounds the hum of the heater and the occasional creak of the house settling around us. Gabriel's presence was grounding, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. As the days turned into weeks, the finality of Nathan and Sophia's downfall became evident. They both lost their jobs, their reputations tarnished beyond repair. Watching their public unraveling was a spectacle I struggled to reconcile with the pain I felt. I had never wished ill upon anyone, but the satisfaction of seeing them face the consequences of their actions was a strange, bittersweet comfort. One particularly bleak morning, Sophia's health took a drastic turn. The stress of the scandal, coupled with her excessive drinking, had begun to affect her physically. When she reached out to me, her voice tremulous and desperate, I felt a cold detachment settle over me. Her plea for a kidney was the final indignity in a long line of offenses. Evelyn, Sophia said over the phone, her voice cracking with both physical and emotional pain, I need your help. I've been advised that a kidney transplant is my only option, and you're the only match. The request was as shocking as it was audacious. For a moment, I was speechless, the gravity of her situation hitting me hard. But then, the reality of our fractured relationship and the years of manipulation and deceit came rushing back. No, I said firmly, struggling to keep my voice steady. I can't help you. Not after everything that's happened. You've put me through so much, and now you want me to sacrifice my health for you. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by a choked sob. Evelyn, please. I know I've hurt you, but I'm asking for your help now. Her words, filled with desperation, failed to sway me. The Evelyn who might have been willing to sacrifice herself for Sophia was gone. In her place was a woman who had learned to value herself, to understand her worth beyond the manipulative tactics of her twin. The legal and emotional battles continued, but each day I found a bit more strength. My sons, while still adjusting to the upheaval, began to show signs of resilience. Their presence was a constant reminder of what truly mattered, and their unconditional love became my anchor. Gabriel's support was unwavering. Our conversations grew deeper, and his presence became a source of comfort and stability. One evening, as we sat on the porch sipping tea, he turned to me with a contemplative expression. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about how you've handled everything. It's impressive, really. I've seen so many people crumble under less pressure. But you've managed to keep going, to keep fighting." I looked at him, appreciating the sincerity in his gaze. "I'm just trying to do what's right for my boys and myself. It hasn't been easy, but it's been a learning experience. I've learned a lot about my own strength and what I'm capable of." Gabriel's eyes softened. "You've shown an incredible amount of courage. I know this is a hard time, but I hope you're finding some moments of peace amidst the chaos." His words resonated deeply. Despite the pain and the struggles, I was starting to see glimmers of light in the darkness. The process of rebuilding was slow and fraught with challenges, but I was no longer defined by my past. I was emerging from the shadows of betrayal, forging a new path for myself and my family. 5 years have passed since the shattering revelations that upended my life. The transition from chaos to calm was gradual, a slow but steady journey toward reclaiming my sense of self. In these years, I have seen my sons grow into remarkable young men, their strength and resilience a testament to the stability we managed to build together. Our lives, once marked by turmoil, now reflect a quiet, hard-won peace. The shift in my world was not instantaneous. The initial months following the fallout with Nathan and Sophia were a series of challenges, each day a test of my newfound resolve. But as the dust settled, I found myself standing on firmer ground, no longer defined by the echoes of betrayal, but by the strength I discovered within. One afternoon, as I sipped coffee on the porch and watched the sun dip below the horizon, Gabriel's presence became a familiar comfort. He had been a steadfast friend through this tumultuous period, and our bond had deepened in ways I hadn't anticipated. The pain of the past had given way to a tentative optimism, and Gabriel's quiet support had been a constant throughout. "You've come a long way," Gabriel said one evening, his voice carrying a blend of admiration and relief. "I've seen you through so many changes, Evelyn. You've handled everything with a strength I didn't know you had." I looked at him, taking in the sincerity in his eyes. "It hasn't been easy," I admitted. "There were days I felt like giving up, days when the weight of it all seemed unbearable. But I learned that sometimes you have to find your own strength because no one else can give it to you." Gabriel nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "It's true. And sometimes it's the hardest battles that teach us the most about ourselves. You've emerged from this not just surviving, but thriving." His words were a balm to my weary soul. We shared a comfortable silence, the kind that spoke volumes without needing to fill the air with words. Gabriel's presence had become a symbol of stability, a steady force in the midst of my evolving life. Meanwhile, the story of Sophia and Nathan had continued to unravel. The public scrutiny and personal fallout had led to a cascade of misfortunes for both of them. Their attempts to rebuild their lives were met with varying degrees of failure, their reputations irrevocably damaged. From a distance, I observed their struggles with a mixture of pity and detachment. The pain they had caused me had transformed into a distant echo, no longer holding the power it once did. One day, Sophia reached out to me again, her voice barely recognizable in its frailty. She had been trying to salvage what remained of her life, but her health had deteriorated significantly. The desperate need for redemption was evident in every word she spoke. "Evelyn," she said during a call, her voice trembling, "I'm sorry for everything. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm asking for one more chance. I'm not asking for much, just understanding, a way to make amends." I took a deep breath, grappling with the complex emotions her pleas stirred within me. "Sophia, I've had to come to terms with a lot over these past years. I've worked hard to rebuild my life and find my own path. Your mistakes were profound, and while I've forgiven you, I can't forget what you've done." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I understand," she finally whispered, the weight of her words heavy with regret. "I just wanted to reach out, to let you know that I'm trying to change." The conversation was a bittersweet reminder of the past, but it also highlighted the extent of my personal growth. I had moved past the need for vindication. My focus was on the future, on living a life that honored the lessons I had learned. As the years progressed, my relationship with Gabriel evolved into something more profound than friendship. The comfort and stability he had provided gradually transformed into a deeper emotional connection. One evening, as we sat together in my living room, he reached for my hand, his eyes searching mine. "Evelyn," he began softly, "I've grown to care for you in ways I hadn't expected. Your strength, your resilience, it's all been incredibly inspiring. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we could be together." The sincerity in his voice was both reassuring and exhilarating. I took a moment to reflect on our journey and the bond we had forged. "Gabriel, I found so much solace in our friendship. It's been a crucial part of my healing. I feel a connection with you that's been growing for a while. I'm ready to explore what that means." His smile was a blend of relief and happiness. "I'm glad to hear that. We've both been through so much, and I think we found something special in each other. I'd like to see where this path leads us." The prospect of a new beginning with Gabriel filled me with hope. It wasn't just about the potential for romance. It was about the possibility of building a life with someone who understood and respected the journey I had been on. As I looked back on the past 5 years, I saw a path marked by pain, but also by profound personal growth. I had learned to embrace my own worth, to define myself not by the betrayals of others, but by the strength and resilience I had developed. The future, once a daunting expanse of uncertainty, was now a canvas ready to be painted with the vibrant colors of a life lived on my own terms. The sun set on another day, casting a warm glow over my world. I smiled, feeling the warmth of possibility and the promise of a future built on the foundations of hard-earned self-discovery and new beginnings.